Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Morning, Jay.
What's up, my brother? How you doing? You know, so we have a special guest today, and I'm looking forward to you introducing him. And But we were just, banter. We always say that we should have a hot mic before the show, and trust me, we always have a hot mic, but I'm talking about the microphone. Hot mess mic, right? Hot
mess.
But no, we have a guest in, and they have a studio that they're calling in from Zoom. And it reminds me of like the first 10 minutes of our committing to the podcast, right?
Yeah.
We started to shop for the stuff, and we started to say, what package should we get, right? And what kind of sound stuff. And it was about 11 minutes into that conversation, and I'm in the phone book looking for podcast studios, and that's how we found Brian and
Audio
Hive here in Chicagoland. And man, I'll tell you what, sometimes in life you just let the experts do what the experts do, because I don't think we ever would have made it to the air.
No, and he actually makes me sound better. I mean, I sound like Pee Wee Herman.
Well,
but he cleans my whole voice structure up.
Well, that's why we're not on video yet, because he hasn't found a way. He hasn't found a way to make us look good yet.
That's right. He'll figure it out though. If anybody
they
can,
don't have
Brian
that level
can.
of technology.
Yeah.
So
good
morning.
We do have a table for three today. We have John in. John's a guy. It's funny, at the beginning of the intro, they talk about our Instagram and our Twitter. Or I guess we need to change that to X now. And we talk about our people getting in touch with us via Sober. What is it? Podcast at Sober.Coffee?
Yes.
Yeah, podcast at Sober.Coffee. Great way to email us. Love to connect. That's how we connected with John, was through one of the social media channels, and you started a conversation with John. I picked it up, talked to him offline a litto bit, and we thought we'd have him on so John can share what's going on in his little corner of sobriety out there.
Cool, man. Welcome, John. John has a bunch of medals hanging up.
John, what medals do you got hanging behind you?
So I am an avid runner, ultra distance runner, and this is kind of a collection of all, I would call them, it started out as good ideas, but once I got into ultra marathon distance running, it kind of teeters on on maybe a bad idea, but it's just so much fun. So I kind of like to hang those up, and kind of a reminder while I'm back here that I can do hard things, and that's kind of where running ties in pretty heavily with my sobriety story too, actually. But
that's awesome.
that's a little bit about.
Nice stuff.
I'll tell you how it tied into my non-sobriety story. So I'm out drinking and smoking and living life large Mike's way, which ultimately turned out not to be the right way. Or the best way for me. But anyway, I decided I was going to quit smoking.
Boy, that was a mouthful.
I decided I was going to quit smoking and start running one day. So I tossed the cigarettes out my car window.
Dude, I almost spit my coffee out.
I tossed the cigarettes out my car window. I get home. I tell my wife I'm running in the morning, right? So I get up in the morning. I'm still strong, man. No cigarettes for me. I take a couple swigs of my whatever poison I was putting in my system. I strap on my jogging shoes, my jogging pants, and I hit the road. I got halfway down the block, literally halfway to the 7-Eleven. I called my wife and said, meet me at 7-Eleven with $6 to buy a pack of cigarettes and drive me home.
So
that was
somehow,
the extent of my run.
I was going to joke that you ran to 7-Eleven as a joke, and you literally did that.
I literally did.
That's
and she met me up there with enough to buy a pack of smokes and drive my tired ass home. But that was old Mike. Now I drive myself to 7-Eleven. So anyway, you're doing running. Running's a big part of your thing out there, right?
Yeah, really, really big part of kind of my continuing sobriety lately. It didn't get me sober. I mean, I think we talked briefly. I think we may have talked briefly on the phone, but I went the traditional route like AA and NA. It wasn't just AA. I had multiple addictions, not just drinking, but
overachiever.
yeah. Well, you know how it is.
Check them all off.
As at, yeah, as addicts, we don't do a little bit of anything. We do a lot of all things. So I did all the things, and so yeah, I went that traditional route, NAA steps, meetings, rehab, and all that stuff, and that got me through. And then I started running and doing long distance running, and then trail running, and then learned that that world was full of people who also had amazing sobriety stories. So that's been kind of my helping with my continued sobriety, um, and I still like to stay involved, obviously, in recovery center, a local recovery center here in Lebanon, Indiana. And I have to shout them out. Last Journey Recovery Center, they're doing great work in this community. So yeah.
So
and I can dive deeper into that if you want. But
yeah, so you're finding a community of sobriety in your community of runners. Is that what I'm hearing? I mean, did you create the community, or are you plugged into the community that you were surprised to find out there?
Well, oddly enough, when I dove in, I kind of kept myself at first, and then I would share a little bit of my story. During ultra marathons, I mean, some ultra marathons that I've ran take me 20 hours, 24 hours. So you've got nothing but you've got nothing but time, and you really get to know people. When you're suffering for that long with other people, it strips away a lot of the stuff, and you really get to know people deep down. And you find out when you kind of start sharing your story, like, wow, I'm not like alone here. So yeah, it just kind of happened. I just kind of stumbled into that world and realized, like, wow, this is kind of a home for me. And I always kind of felt like an outcast. As a recovering addict, you know how it is. Like you go to like a party, you kind of feel like the odd,
Sure.
like an odd duck. You're the only one not drinking.
The only guy with a Pepsi in his hand, right?
Yeah, the only guy with like a seltzer or whatever at the cookout. And this world made me feel right at home. So I've been pretty active in it ever since.
Can I ask you a question? It sounds to me like you get to know other people really well, but what jumped into my head is it's probably a venue to get to know yourself pretty well, because you got 20 hours of you and let's call it what it is, some levels of pain. But you also have levels of rewards you're seeing, you're accomplishing as you're moving down the path, so to speak. And so, but it's probably quite enlightening, that time to spend. I don't know that I carve out 20 straight hours to be with myself.
Yeah, it's really yeah. I mean, it's pretty. You really get to know yourself, and now when you're really really pushing for that long, and it's really helped. I'd say with a lot of self discovery. I never really understood why I operate the way I do. I have an addict. I'm an addict. I behave like an addict, and you have nothing when you have nothing but time to kind of sit with who you are. You really kind of you get to like the meat and potatoes of why you are the way you are, and that's really helped me kind of understand who I am, kind of what makes me tick. And it's even, I would say, even as far as recently, it's kind of shed light on like maybe why I was masking pain for so many years with drugs and alcohol. And stuff I didn't know, stuff I buried. I numbed myself for most of my life until 4 years ago. So I'm still, even now, with almost 5 years of sobriety, I know I'm still young in sobriety. I'm still learning, kind of. It's like peeling back layers of an onion, right? It's like I'm still kind of learning, like, why I was the way I am, so yeah, it really exposes a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, that's outstanding. I mean, I think you're right. I think that I'm still learning a lot. There's still stuff I learned, but what's inspiring to me this morning is that maybe I need to carve out a little more time for that self-reflection. I know we do that in practices like meditation and the like, and even talking and communicating and plugging into the fellowship. But what you're saying is just really really taking time to analyze and go deep a little bit, right? Glenn,
yeah, absolutely.
Glenn, do you find the same thing?
Yeah. So, I mean, John, you said something I wrote down and trying to figure out why I drank. What was the ism, right? What was the part of me that wasn't working, and where and guys, I've been through so much therapy, and I remember I had a panel of 10 PhDs at Rush here in Chicago sit down to analyze me, and I remember them saying, we're going to figure out why you drink or why you drank, and we're going to fix you so you don't drink again. It was one of the most arrogant statements that I've ever heard in my life. These 10 PhDs sat back. Meanwhile, I drank through the whole program, and they did absolute zero for me. And so at some point, I think this is okay. It was okay for me. It was freeing. At some point, I realized it really doesn't matter, right? If I'm building a life today that works for me today, does it really matter what happened at 14? That one, or in first grade where I wanted to win the reading contest by 5 times second place, right? I've had moreism my entire life. Does it really matter? Or do it today? I'm like, okay, I have moreism. I need to be aware of that. I need to build guardrails around that. I need to have limitations on that, right? And I need to set up my life. It was freeing the day I'm like, you know what? I mean, and I will say I spent a lot of time and resources trying to figure it out, and I didn't. And I'm like, I'm done, and I'm just going to be me. I know who I am today. I'm going to build guardrails around and accountability and whatever around me, and I'm just going to move forward for today.
Right, and that's what I heard you say too, John, is, look, I'm an addict alcoholic. That's what I am. So I think like an addict alcoholic.
Many people try to figure out why.
And there was a million things that went into the making of Mike, right? A million incidents, and throw in some childhood trauma, throw in disappointments, throw in fears, all that stuff. But now at the end, all I need to really be cognizant of is I need to, like you said, have those borders, have those guardrails up, knowing that if I drift out, I can return to my alcoholic behavior. But I'm never going to change who I am. And that is a guy that is looking to fill a void inside himself, and he'll look to anything.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I guess I'm not trying to, like, I like to dig into like kind of like why I am the way I am, not necessarily like to like make it go away, right? Like I guess what I've been trying to do lately is like use that like for good now. Like instead of trying to drink away those habits, I actually try to like use those like isms, like you say, for like good. Like I understand like kind of the way I tick. So how it is. Like when we find something that makes us feel good or we like. I mean, at least I can say this for myself. I go full in. I don't dip my toe in anything.
Right.
So now I can recognize that, and like like if I'm, for instance, volunteering for the recovery center, like I go all out, and so I try to focus that. I try to learn why and the way I am, so I can like focus that like behavior towards something hopefully meaningful and impactful to others who are also maybe in early recovery or sober curious, or now like ultra distance running or whatever it may be. I try to use that like the way I behave for like a good purpose. Hopefully, I guess, if that makes any sense at all what I just said. But
yeah, so I heard you just mention ultra distance running. Like how far?
Yeah. I mean, some of these that I've done, I will do go up to 100 miles.
So John,
miles.
I love you, man. I think that's an illness. No, I'm totally kidding you. So hey, here's who I listen to. I get a lot of inspiration. I don't follow him. I mean, I don't do what he does, but a lot of inspiration is David Goggins, and he does a ton of that ultra, and he just talks about, and it's helped me in sobriety is, just suffering better, right? Or sitting in the shit, and it doesn't matter how you feel, you do it anyhow. right? And I think that's, the ultra running, it just, I'm sure you don't feel great every time you get up to go run, but you just do it. And it reminds me of sobriety. There's so many times, in fact, probably 99% of the meetings that I go to, I don't want to. I don't feel like going, but I go. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing. 99% of the time I do that, I come out feeling better, and I got something out of it, and there's some value. And I, what I've learned, especially, with running, I'm trying to get my head around that because I'm not a runner. I'm allergic to exercise, life-threatening, actually. I just hate exercise. But what I have found is when you get up and you do it anyhow, you run through the wall, through the pain. Goggins talks about toenails ripping off, and he still runs, right? That the feelings catch up later. You don't feel it in the moment. You don't wake up, I can't wait to go for a 22-mile run.
But boy, to sit back at night and say, I just conquered 100, my body conquered a 100-mile run is amazing. So let me ask you this, because Glenn and I aren't distance runners to that level at all. I mean, we run when the cops are behind us, but especially on the way to the studio.
Oh, my gosh.
But how do you bring that back then to the recovery center? How do you bring that message of endurance, perseverance, persistence, healing? How do you bring that back to the recovery center? And tell me what's unique about the recovery center in Indiana there that you got going. What makes it kind of stand above everyone else?
All right. So Life's Journey Recovery Center, a place that's near and dear to my heart, right here in Lebanon, Indiana. What makes it special is we don't really have anything like that here. It's kind of unfortunate. I'm not down in my community. Lebanon, Indiana is a wonderful town. Boone County is a wonderful place to live. I've been here most of my life. I actually my native soil is Chicago, so it's kind of cool to talk to you guys. We still are kind of behind the times with having the conversation about addiction. There's the stigma is everywhere, but it feels like it's really hard to break here. And we're making a lot of ground really quickly, which is awesome. But I kind of like to bring that message back because I was hopeless in my addiction. I was killing myself, and I was really comfortable with it. I just kind of leaned into that anyway. That if anything, it made me drink harder. I kind of figured it was over for me. Mm-hmm. And I kind of like to, not to be braggadocious anyway, but I kind of like to show people, locally, hey, maybe a before picture of me, or kind of an example of who I was before. This is who I was, and this is who you can be in sobriety. And not to, like I said, I try not to be, try not to brag. I just want to show people, you think it's impossible to stay sober. I didn't know I could stay sober. I was the last person anybody thought could ever get sober. And I kind of like to use that message. It doesn't mean you have to go out and run 100 miles or whatever, but you can do. We're all capable of incredible things, and it's not going to be easy, but it's possible. And I like to share that message here locally. I mean, because to most people it sounds preposterous to do those kind of things, but I mean, I just kind of like to use what I go through or what I go through as a message. Recovery is possible, and I just try to share that message as loud as I can here locally. Here, anyone will go listen. And Life's Journey is just doing amazing things. We're getting out in the community. We had our second walk in recovery this last year here at this local park. I mean, just even getting a recovery center at a local park and to put our name on the big lit marquee is a huge milestone in this community. And that's kind of how I like to share my message here, here at Life's Journey.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. So, John, I really value what you just said. It doesn't, the one thing I'm thinking is, I mean, I can't relate to ultra running, right? But I can relate to doing some cool stuff. And the way you put it reminded me that, I mean, the way I like to put it is sobriety is a superpower, right? And then tying in that very quickly, part B, or, a subset of that is spirituality is a superpower. Getting outside your head, realizing there's a higher power out there, and that it's not me, right? So it's a superpower, whether that superpower is deployed in, ultra running, whether it's, being a great dad, a great family man, a great friend, a great sponsor, just a great person of society, person at work, right? And that just clicked for me that, sobriety has afforded people to live differently, and I actually call it a superpower. Right. So I love how you put that.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you talk about the stigma. Here in Chicago, we've got bridges, and that's where you'll find the drunks are under the bridges. That's the stigma. I didn't live under a bridge. I had a wife and a car and a garage and a job.
Drunks can be in the boardroom.
But I was under the bridge mentally, physically. I was, as you said, I was on a road to death, and I didn't care. And I think the stigma is out there, and I think it's out there in the big cities, and I think it's out there in the little communities that, these people, one of which I was, they've got a problem, and they are just making a choice, and they're just making a choice flippantly to drink or drug, and that's so far from the truth of the reality of what's going on with this disease and the effect it has, and the fact that it doesn't discriminate. It can be any color, ethnic.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. No, I think you're doing great stuff down there, John. And
John, there will not be another time I drive 65 south through Lebanon that I don't think about you.
Oh, nice. Yeah. It's a wonderful community. We just have
with that big colorful bridge, that's all painted that crosses 65. No, that's awesome.
It's a beautiful bridge.
What's just imparting, because we got to kind of wrap up. Give the guy on the sideline, the guy who walks by the recovery center, thinking that he might need to step in. Give him a word of encouragement that says, "Step into the recovery center. We're here for you." Give them something.
I just always like to tell people, when you're first getting sober, first of all, come on in. I mean, you don't even have to be sober when you first walk in, right? Just come in. We'll give you a meal, a coffee, a chat, a hug, someplace you belong, and something that happens is, if you slip up, that doesn't end it. Just keep coming back. It's to me, I like to say that sobriety is about progress, not perfection. Right? It doesn't always have to look pretty. And I kind of like to be able to say, just take it one day at a time, and you just have to keep coming back. It doesn't matter what shape you're in. We love everybody, and we want to help. So yeah, just keep coming back. Come on inside. We're here for you.
Yeah, and I'm begging those same people to accept the help. That's one thing I didn't do. There was people that wanted to help me, and I never accepted the help. When I surrendered and said, I'll follow your way, my life changed.
I love the one-liner comes out of this. It's just, come on in.
Come on in.
Come on in. I love it, John.
Love it. Thanks, John.
Thanks, man.
Come back again.
Thanks for jumping on with us, brother.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, you got it, man.
Have a great day.
Take care, man.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@sober.coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.